Imagine waking up already carrying yesterday's anger like a backpack you forgot to take off. A stranger's careless comment in traffic ignites a fire that burns through your entire morning. Your partner forgets to reply to a message, and suddenly you're flooded with the old childhood feeling of being invisible, unimportant, left behind. You lash out over something small, a spilled drink, a delayed plan, and then spend the rest of the day replaying the scene in your head, defending your reaction, feeling secretly justified in your storm. Deep inside, though, there's a quiet voice asking, why does this keep happening? Why does peace feel so fragile, so easily stolen by things that shouldn't matter? That frustration isn't weakness, it's a signal. It's the child still living inside the adult, still reacting the way it learned years ago, still believing the world must change so the heart can rest. If any part of this already stings in a useful way, smash that like button right now. It tells the algorithm this message matters and helps reach others who are quietly struggling with the same inner storms. And if you want regular reminders to build a calmer, stronger mind, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's begin. Number 1, you take everything personally. The childish mind is wired to see itself at the center of every event. When someone speaks sharply, cancels plans, or even simply looks away, the immature interpretation rushes in. This is about me. They don't value me. I'm not enough. Epictetus cut straight through this illusion 2,000 years ago. It is not things that disturb people, but their judgments concerning things. Yet we still hand our peace over to other people's moods, words, and silences as if they were writing verdicts on our worth. Every slight becomes evidence in an imaginary trial where we are both judge and accused. This habit is exhausting because it forces you to live in a constant state of defense. You scan for threats that mostly exist only in your interpretation. A delayed text becomes proof of rejection. Constructive feedback feels like an attack on your identity. The result is chronic tension, muscles tight, mind racing, always brace for the next blow. The Stoic path invites a radical shift. What if most of what hurts isn't aimed at you at all? What if it's simply another human acting from their own fatigue, fear, ignorance, or pain? Marcus Aurelius practiced this perspective every morning. He reminded himself that the people around him, annoying, rude, selfish, are simply playing the roles assigned by nature, just as he is. They do not wake up plotting to ruin his day. They are caught in their own storms. When you release the automatic claim of "this is personal," you stop collecting wounds that were never intended for you. The child inside resists this fiercely. It wants to feel uniquely injured because that makes the pain feel meaningful, dramatic, important. Stoicism calls that attachment a form of vanity. Real dignity arrives when you refuse to inflate ordinary human friction into personal tragedy. You begin to see others as fellow travelers, flawed, limited, doing their best with what they have. Practical training starts small and daily. The next time offense rises, pause and silently ask 3 questions. 1. What exactly happened? Stripped of my story. 2. What evidence do I actually have that this targets me? 3. If this happened to someone I respect, would I tell them it proves they're worthless? Write the answers if you must. Over weeks, the automatic me-centered lens weakens. Eventually, this practice creates a quiet fortress within. Criticism still lands, disappointment still stings, but it no longer pierces the core of who you are. You respond from reason rather than reflex. That steady, unshakable center is one of the clearest marks of emotional adulthood. Number 2, you cannot control your impulses. The child feels an urge and obeys it instantly, yelling, slamming doors, sending angry messages at 2 a.m., plotting petty revenge. Seneca described anger as a brief madness, because in that moment reason is dethroned and passion wears the crown. Many adults still permit this coup to happen repeatedly. They feel the heat, the tightness, the rush of righteousness. And instead of stepping back, they lean in, letting words or actions spill out that they will later regret but rarely prevent. Emotional maturity is measured by the size of the gap you can create between impulse and behavior. That gap is where freedom lives. Epictetus taught that while we cannot control the first arrow, the initial feeling, we can always choose whether to fire the second, our response. The mature person notices anger rising like a wave, acknowledges it without judgment, then decides whether to ride it or let it pass. Without this space, life remains chaotic. Important relationships fracture from uncontrolled outbursts. Careers stall because of rash decisions made in heat. Opportunities disappear because pride demanded an immediate defense instead of thoughtful silence. Marcus Aurelius, who faced betrayal by friends, mutiny by soldiers, and constant physical pain, still managed to keep his temper in check by repeatedly asking himself, "Is this worthy of disturbing my tranquility?" Look honestly at your own patterns. How often do you later say, "I wish I had waited 10 minutes"? The recurring regret is the child knocking, asking to be taught better. Stoicism does not ask you to suppress emotion. It asks you to parent it. Feel it fully, but do not let it act through you until reason has spoken. Start training with micro delays. When irritation spikes, commit to 10 slow breaths before speaking or acting. During those breaths, name the emotion. This is anger. Located in your body, tight chest, hot face, and ask one Stoic question. Will reacting this way make me more virtuous tomorrow? Most times the urgency fades. Each success weakens the impulsive habit. Over months and years, this skill compounds. You stop fearing your own emotions because you trust your ability to meet them wisely. No longer a slave to sudden passion, you walk through life with calm authority. That self-mastery is the foundation of true emotional adulthood. Number 3, you blame others for your feelings. As long as you believe someone else can make you angry, sad, anxious, or resentful, you remain emotionally a child, powerless, dependent, waiting for the world to behave so you can feel okay. Epictetus destroyed this illusion with brutal clarity. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Yet the immature mind keeps pointing outward. You ruin my day. They make me so mad. If only they would change, I could be at peace. This blame habit keeps you weak because it ties your emotional state to things you cannot control. Other people's choices, words, moods, consistency. The child demands the external world conform to his comfort. The adult accepts that externals are neutral until judgment colors them. When you stop outsourcing responsibility for your feelings, you stop outsourcing your power. Seneca observed that we suffer far more from imagination than from reality. The story we tell ourselves about what happened usually hurts worse than the event itself. When your partner is late, the child thinks they don't care. The adult thinks they're late. I can choose irritation or patience. The difference is everything. Taking ownership hurts at first. It means looking in the mirror and admitting your role in the suffering. But that honest look is liberating. You no longer wait for apologies that may never come. You no longer need perfect circumstances to feel steady. You become the source of your own calm. Daily practice. Whenever blame arises, "They did this to me," immediately reframe with 2 sentences, "This happened. I am choosing how to interpret and respond to it." Write it down if the emotion is strong. Over time, the reflex to blame shrinks and the reflex to own your judgment grows. The result is profound independence. Your peace no longer rises and falls with other people's behavior. You carry tranquility inside you like an inner flame that no wind can extinguish. That inner sovereignty is one of the highest achievements of emotional maturity. Number 4, you avoid discomfort at all costs. Children flee pain, physical bumps, emotional hurts, moments of boredom or loneliness. Many adults never fully outgrow this flight response. They numb with endless scrolling, alcohol, overwork, Netflix binges, or constant distraction. Anything to avoid sitting with unease. Seneca called this postponing life, running from reality instead of inhabiting it. Stoicism flips the script. Discomfort is not the enemy, it is the training ground. Marcus Aurelius viewed every obstacle as an opportunity to exercise virtue. A rude person, chance to practice patience. Loneliness, chance to practice self-sufficiency. Rejection, chance to practice dignity without needing approval. The mature soul does not seek suffering, but refuses to let fear dictate choices. When you consistently avoid hard feelings, they grow in the shadows, becoming bigger, more monstrous. When you face them directly, they shrink to their true size, temporary, manageable, often instructive. The child believes, I can't handle this. The adult learns through experience, I have handled worse, and I am still here. Epictetus compared life to a wrestling school. You don't complain when the opponent is strong. You thank him for making you better. Avoidance robs you of growth. Voluntary exposure builds resilience. This is not masochism. It is strategic courage. Build the muscle gradually. Set a daily discomfort appointment. 5 to 15 minutes of sitting with an uncomfortable feeling, boredom, anxiety, sadness, without escape. No phone, no food, no distraction. Simply observe it rise, change, and pass. Each session proves you are stronger than the feeling. Over time, discomfort loses its terror. You move through difficult conversations, uncertain futures, and painful memories with quiet confidence. You no longer run from life, you meet it. That fearless willingness to feel is a hallmark of deep emotional maturity. Number 5, you hold grudges and seek revenge. The childish heart keeps meticulous score. Hurt once, it stores the debt, waiting for the perfect moment to collect. Cold silence, sarcastic comments, passive-aggressive jabs, fantasies of public humiliation. This grudge-keeping slowly poisons your own mind long after the original offense has faded. Marcus Aurelius wrote the antidote plainly. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Grudges chain you to the past. Every time you replay the scene, you re-inflict the wound on yourself. You give the offender free rent in your head. Stoicism teaches radical forgiveness. Not because the other person deserves it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness here means releasing the demand for cosmic justice, accepting that people act from ignorance or weakness, and choosing not to carry their flaws. Seneca urged treating others' faults with the same mildness we hope will be shown to ours. Holding a grudge proves we are still small, still controlled by ego. Letting go proves we have grown beyond the need to settle scores. This release is hard because it feels like letting them win. In truth, it is you winning back your attention, energy, and serenity. The mature soul sees that revenge keeps the cycle of suffering alive. Indifference starves it. Daily practice. When resentment stirs, pause and do this brief exercise. 1. Picture the person as a small child who never learned better. 2. Silently wish them understanding or relief from whatever drives their behavior. 3. Remind yourself, their actions belong to them. My peace belongs to me. Repeat until the emotional heat drops. In time, the grudge habit dissolves. You travel lighter. Old wounds no longer dictate your mood or behavior. You respond to past hurts with the calm of someone who has already settled the account. Inside, that unburdened, forward-facing heart is the ultimate sign of emotional adulthood. Number 6, you crave constant validation and approval. The emotionally immature heart is always hungry for external praise. A compliment lifts you to the clouds. Silence or criticism drops you into despair. Every achievement, every post, every conversation becomes a quiet plea. Tell me I'm good. Tell me I matter. Epictetus saw this clearly. If your worth depends on what others think, you will never be free. You become a slave to opinion. Yet many adults still live this way, checking phones for likes, replaying conversations for hidden approval, adjusting behavior to avoid disapproval. This craving turns life into performance. You stop acting from inner principle and start acting for the audience. Decisions shrink to what will be admired rather than what is right. Relationships become transactional. If they don't affirm me today, they don't value me. The result is fragile self-esteem that collapses the moment applause stops. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself almost daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He understood that seeking validation outside is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. The mature person draws worth from virtue, from acting justly, courageously, temperately, regardless of who notices. The child inside equates being seen with being valuable. Stoicism replies, "True value is internal and cannot be given or taken away." When you stop fishing for praise, you stop fearing its absence. You begin to act with quiet integrity, even when no one is watching. Practical daily exercise. For 1 week, do at least one small act of goodness or excellence with the deliberate intention that no one will ever know about it. Notice the urge to tell someone anyway, and let it pass. Each time you choose silence, you strengthen the muscle of self-sufficiency. Over months, this habit reshapes identity. You no longer rise and fall with others' opinions. Calm confidence grows, not from being admired, but from knowing you're living according to reason and nature. That independence is a hallmark of deep emotional maturity. Number 7, you compare yourself to others constantly. The childish mind measures itself against everyone else. Someone buys a house, gets promoted, looks happier on social media, and suddenly your own life feels smaller, slower, inferior. Envy creeps in, disguised as motivation, but really it is self-torment. Seneca warned, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Comparison is imagination at its cruelest, turning neutral facts into personal failure. This habit steals joy from your own journey. You cannot celebrate your progress because someone else appears further ahead. You cannot rest because someone else seems to have more. The Stoic view is radical. Other people's lives are none of your concern. Their success does not diminish yours. Their struggle does not elevate yours. Each person walks a unique path shaped by fate and choice. Epictetus taught that we should focus only on what is truly ours. Our judgments, intentions, actions. Everything else, wealth, status, beauty, applause, is externally controlled. When you stop comparing, you stop handing your peace to things outside your power. The immature soul uses comparison as a whip to drive itself forward. The mature soul uses reason and virtue as the compass. Progress is measured not against others, but against who you were yesterday and who you aim to become tomorrow. Daily practice. When comparison arises, pause and name 3 things that are genuinely within your control right now: effort, attitude, kindness. Then name 1 thing you're grateful for in your current situation, no matter how small. This redirects attention inward. With repetition, the reflex to look sideways weakens. You begin to walk your own road with steady eyes forward. Contentment grows, not because life is perfect, but because you refuse to let someone else's portion define the value of yours. That quiet self-acceptance marks emotional adulthood. Number 8, you run from accountability. When things go wrong, the child quickly finds someone or something to blame. Circumstances, bad luck, other people's incompetence. "It wasn't my fault" becomes the automatic shield. Yet Epictetus insisted, the moment you blame anything outside yourself, you surrender control. Accountability is painful because it requires looking at your own choices, but it is the only path to real change. Avoiding responsibility keeps you stuck. You repeat the same mistakes because you never own them. Relationships suffer because apologies feel like defeat. Growth stalls because improvement requires admitting where you fell short. Marcus Aurelius practiced brutal self-examination every evening. He asked himself what he did well, what he did poorly, and how he could do better tomorrow. No excuses, no softening the truth. This nightly review was not self-punishment. It was self-liberation. Owning your role, even when small, gives you the power to correct it. The immature heart fears accountability because it confuses it with shame. Stoicism separates the two. You are not your mistakes. You are the one who can learn from them. Accepting responsibility is an act of courage, not humiliation. Practical step. At the end of each day, spend 5 minutes writing 3 sentences. 1. One thing I did today that aligned with my values. 2. One thing I did that fell short and why. 3. One small change I will make tomorrow. No blame, only facts and forward motion. Over time, this habit turns discomfort into growth. You stop fearing the mirror because you know it shows a person capable of improvement. That willingness to stand accountable is one of the strongest signs of emotional maturity. Number 9. You expect life to be fair. The child believes the world owes fairness. Good behavior should always be rewarded, bad behavior punished, effort guaranteed success. When reality refuses to comply, bitterness follows. Why me? It's not fair. Seneca answered this centuries ago. Fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling. Expecting fairness is expecting nature to bend to your preferences. This expectation breeds resentment. You feel cheated when hard work doesn't pay off immediately. You feel angry when cruel people prosper. The Stoic accepts that the universe is indifferent, neither cruel nor kind, just orderly in ways we cannot fully see. Virtue is its own reward. Vice carries its own punishment, even if hidden. Marcus Aurelius faced endless unfairness, illness, betrayal, endless war, yet reminded himself, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. The harm comes not from events, but from demanding they conform to our sense of justice. Maturity releases the demand for cosmic fairness. You still prefer justice, still work toward it, but you no longer tie your peace to its arrival. You act rightly because it is right, not because it guarantees a happy ending. Daily training. When unfairness stings, pause and say silently, "This is what has happened. Now what is the wise response?" Then focus on your next right action. This shifts energy from complaint to creation. With practice, resentment fades. You meet injustice with calm dignity rather than outrage. Life still brings unfair moments, but they no longer rule your inner world. That serene acceptance of what is, while still striving for what ought to be, reveals deep emotional adulthood. Number 10. You let moods dictate your actions. The child lets the weather inside decide the day's course. Angry? Everyone feels the storm. Sad? The world must wait. Tired? Nothing gets done. Moods become kings, and reason becomes servant. Seneca called this living at the mercy of chance feelings. Emotional maturity reverses the order. Mood may arrive uninvited, but it does not command. You acknowledge the feeling, "I am irritated/low/restless." Then choose action based on principle, not emotion. The mature person does the right thing even when it feels wrong in the moment. Epictetus compared the mind to a citadel. Externals can besiege it, but only you can open the gates. Letting moods rule is voluntarily surrendering the fortress. Marcus Aurelius practiced acting from duty even when depressed or in pain. He wrote many of his meditations during illness and grief. This discipline brings freedom. You no longer wait to feel like it before exercising, working, or showing kindness. You act first, and feeling often follows. Practical method. Create a short list of regardless actions, things you will do regardless of mood. morning walk, 10 minutes of reading philosophy, one kind message to someone. When mood resists, do the action anyway. Each completion proves mood is not master. Over years, this builds an inner stability that external weather cannot touch. You remain reliable to yourself and others, even on dark days. That consistent, principle-driven life, rather than mood-driven reactivity, is the ultimate expression of emotional maturity. These 10 signs are not meant to shame you. They are mirrors held up gently, showing where the child still lingers in the adult you are becoming. Every one of us carries echoes of immaturity, the quick flare of ego, the hunger for approval, the reflex to blame, the flight from discomfort. Stoicism does not demand that you erase these parts overnight. It asks only that you see them clearly, meet them with patience, and choose again and again. The response that builds strength instead of feeding old habits. Growth is not a dramatic leap. It is the quiet accumulation of small, deliberate choices made in the ordinary moments when no one is watching. You have already taken the first step by watching this far. That awareness alone is a victory. The path ahead will test you. There will be days when the old reactions win, when anger spills or resentment returns or comparison steals your peace. In those moments, do not despair. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly that falling is human. What matters is rising again with more understanding than before. Treat yourself as you would treat a student who is learning a difficult skill. Firm but kind, honest but encouraging. Each time you pause before reacting, each time you own your judgment, each time you face discomfort without running, you are forging the calm, steady center that no external storm can shake. Emotional maturity is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of reason even when feeling runs high. You are capable of this. You always have been. So start today, not with perfection, but with one honest intention. Pick the sign that stung the most and practice its opposite for the next 24 hours. Breathe through the impulse. On your part, release the grudge. Act regardless of mood. Do it imperfectly and do it again tomorrow. Over weeks and months, these small refusals to stay childish will compound into a life that feels lighter, freer, more truly your own. If this video stirred something real in you, leave a like to help it reach others walking the same path. Share it with someone who needs the reminder. And if you want to keep walking this road together, subscribe and turn on notifications. More Stoic tools are coming.